Slow down, you move too fast. Gotta make the morning last. Kicking down the cobblestones, looking for fun and feeling groovy. Ba-da-da-da-da-da-dum, feeling groovy.
Okay, so welcome everybody to the bridge. We've got a great guest today, Dr. Dave. He's going to tell us more about himself and his wonderful work. But Sandy, I know you've got, oh, wait a minute. This is episode 87. So well on our way to our second year. Sandy, you got a quote?
Absolutely. Norman Vincent Peale. I remember growing up and hearing my mom referring to him. What he's going to share with us today is when you change your thoughts, remember to also change your world. You can't just stay here. You've got to make it work for you. And I think that's perfect for Dr. Dave.
I think a lot about thoughts.
Right?
So, welcome, Dave. Give us a little thumbnail sketch of who you are, and we'll get into what you do and your marvelous work and your passions.
Awesome. Well, I'm feeling groovy, and thanks for having me. A little nervous with the educators. I was always the bad kid, so I feel like I'm in the principal's office.
Bad kids are the smarter ones. This is just that the educators don't let you move around, you know.
I married a teacher, so I'm always in detention. So,
Oh, man.
well, thank you.
You're on the hot seat.
I love the format, and I love the community you've created here with your listeners, and a safe place to come and just chat about life and things like that. I do coaching, transitional coaching, but I was a chiropractor I am a chiropractor. I don't think you ever stop being a chiropractor. I've been a chiropractor for almost 30 years, and I've had a high volume practice for a long time. And then at some point I would say about 10 years ago, I started to realize my body was breaking down. And the thing about chiropractic and practice, they teach you how to grow a practice. You go to seminars, how to grow a practice. They don't show you how to close a practice. So I felt like I was in my body was hurting. Mm-hmm. I was stressed. I had more stress and anxiety. And just for me, after 10 years, a lot of things were in a place where I knew I had to leave. Mm-hmm. And I didn't know what to do next. My identity, I was Dr. Dave. I even call myself that. I don't call that out of prestige. I never was Mr. Dave. I've been a Dr. Dave since in my 20s. I didn't know what I was going to do. And if anybody could relate to going through a transition of not knowing what to do next. I mean, I was a chiropractor. That's how I took care of my family. I have children. I have a family. And all of a sudden, I wasn't going to do that anymore, or at least was trying to figure out what to do next with no other thought in mind. So there was a lot of stress and anxiety at that time. And I remember bumping into a friend of mine at that time, and his name's Andy, and he's a hedge fund guy. We're in Jersey, so we're right across from Manhattan. And he had gone to work on 9/11. And when he showed up that day, he went late for some reason. He was not in the buildings, but the planes had already hit. And he's looking up. He worked at Cantor Fitzgerald. He had friends in that building. He went to high school with some of those friends. And he had a horrible spiral at PTSD and alcoholism, drug addiction. It just got really bad. And somewhere along, now this is way later. I'm talking to Andy, 2015. Super successful, by the way. They donated a building at Seton Hall, him and his brother. Yeah. They are very successful. But he went through this period of time, and he had asked me if I ever heard of transcendental meditation, because his psychologist, I guess the insurance ran out, and then at the end he says, "Well, why don't you try this?" So I went home and I found breath work for the first time. And transcendental meditation, they'll say it's not attached to religion and things, but it comes from Hindu traditions, and a lot of the mantras they say are Hindu gods, and which is cool. I'm fine. I'm into the woo-woo, but bringing that into practice, and as a Christian to myself, I just didn't want to step on toes. I wanted to bring something to my practice to people where they can calm down their nervous system, they can sleep better, deal with their inflammation, blood pressure, but not get too into the woo-woo, right? Mm-hmm. I don't like woo-woo, but it's not for everybody, right? And I started down this journey to understand what what breath work was, and I landed for myself with HeartMath. HeartMath is a nonprofit organization that trains people. I'm a doctor trained to teach the techniques, but they use heart rate variability. So for me, having objective data to measure breath work, right? Whatever you feel when you do breath work, you feel, but is it measurable? Is it reproducible? And what is actually happening? So by using heart rate variability, that's a whole nother perspective. And now we can train people, reproduce it, get data, and keep that data. I've had my data for over since 2015. You keep that data and you actually watch how you can change your brain's function. I know it sounds weird. I'll explain more about what that is in a minute, but that's kind of what got my start, because about 5 or 6 years ago, when I finally did close my practice, I went through a major transition and not knowing what I was going to do. Right. You know, so there was a painter painting my house. I thought maybe I'd ask if you needed help. So I realized I wasn't qualified to paint or change a tire, by the way. Like, I can't do anything but chiropractic. So I ended up utilizing breath work. I got my body back. I started doing some work in corporate world. I hated that. And so I finally pieced together a way to serve people again, using what helped me the most, which was breath work and balancing out my metabolic function and getting rid of a lot of that issues and turn around. How do I help people going through transitions in life that are stressed out? Yeah. And what does it mean to them? And how could I help others, through some sort of coaching process? So we created the Breakthrough Blueprint. I call myself the coherence coach. And I work with some functional medicine doctors. So we actually balance out not only their nervous system, but their blood work. And we work with some high achieving entrepreneurs and business people and athletes and things like that.
Yeah, that's really interesting. The latest brain research is all about retraining your brain, which is what you're talking about. And they have, in education, we talk about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, that you don't learn anything until you feel safe, and then you have a community, and we use that a lot. And so, I think we all just use different words and methods to the same journey, finding yourself, finding you being coherent with you, which, and then
what's interesting about that is, and if you do enough of this work, you realize that thoughts are for the brain, but feelings are for the body.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and why this work is so fascinating to me is because I identified really early on that your feelings are driving your physiology. Okay. So we're all talking about feelings and thoughts and, how we feel and these days, but the reality is it's not a feeling until it hits the body. Okay. So you have a thought. So think of it. You have a thought. Think of grandma's apple pie. Okay. The thought is, you see it, right? But when you really think about it and you remember it, it comes from the amygdala, it comes from your limbic system. Right. The memory is a feeling. You'll smell it. There's a certain heart rate pattern, a blood pressure pattern that your body will feel. It'll even smell and taste the apple pie. It went from a thought to a feeling. So Think about that, right? So our feelings are driving our physiology. Feelings are using blood pressure, heart rate, pH, your digestive function, all of those things have to sync up to a feeling, right? After you have the thought. So I ask people, what are your consistent thoughts and feelings? Because that's what's driving your consistent physiology. That's what's driving your health outcome. So Monday through Friday, you're in the grind and it's go, go, go. And that's fight or flight, by the way. It's very incoherent. Sure. You're creating hormones and blood pressure, and you're creating a state in your body that's not healthy. It's for survival. And then you hit the weekend and you don't really rest. You just crash. 2 days isn't long enough. So most people keep their body in this high level of stress, as opposed to the opposite side of that, which we call coherence, which I'll have to explain what that is. But it's the opposite of his anxiety and stress, but it's where rest, digest, healing, sleeping, where your clarity comes from, hormones like oxytocin, DHEA, healing hormones. So if we're never in that place of coherence, that's never really happening efficiently. The only thing that's really happening efficiently is stress, cortisol, high blood pressure, lack of sleep, brain fog. That seems to be the American normal. Yeah. So we're helping people with that transition.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And all the PTSD and I think we almost need to learn to turn that inside out and get good at trusting our gut and, moving into it that way. But it can be very scary if you've not done it before and it's not your habit.
As a matter of fact, your body will protect you to stay in anxiety because you told it wasn't safe. And if you tell it it's not safe long enough, just because you say close your eyes and you say, oh, that's over, those hormones and that you're hyper vigilant. Even if you get a chance to, you finally do pass out because you're tired, you wake up at 3 a.m. because your cortisol's fired up and you're on high alert again. So there's more than just thought. There's a physiological response that's happening on a hormonal level, on a blood pressure level, and the mind is just keeping itself going. So there needs to be, what I say is we reconnect with the heart. So breath work does that. Like when you breathe, and if we were to sit here and breathe and relax, and I brought you through a particular pattern, you'd feel that overall relaxation in your body. That's what I call recalibrating or reconnecting to your body. That's phase one. Phase two requires some thought coaching. Remember, we said anxiety and stress causes this. So what turns out, what causes coherence, which is when your heart, everything syncs up in the healthiest state, is love, connection, feeling connected to others. So if you're not in the higher levels of love and bliss, bring you into coherence. So what we train people to do is we do some thought coaching. Everybody is a little bit different. What brings them with the device into their highest levels of coherence? And we train them to be there in the practice 10 minutes in the morning and 10 minutes at night. Because when you're in coherence, everything starts to sync up, right? Your digestive system starts to relax. Your hormones start to relax. You start to create the healing, regenerating, system in your body, right? We need to get there. So we spend 10 minutes in the morning and 10 minutes at night in love and bliss. I call it the love and bliss treadmill. It's the hardest workout you ever have, right? It's like putting yourself in a state where it's measurable, because when you do that, you start to recalibrate your brain and your nervous system to not be so hypervigilant. And that's
so you're measuring, it's sort of like biofeedback. You're measuring how your brain is functioning, or what's
instantaneous heart rate. It's called instantaneous heart rate variability, where we have either a finger sensor or your sensor on, right? And it's picking up exactly what's going on in the moment. So you start to have a thought and you're putting yourself in a state, you'll see it go up. And you start losing that, you'll see it come down. So it's a process. Because what's funny about breath work, you can really sit there and breathe and feel relaxed when you're done. I've done this many times where I feel like I'm having an awesome session. Like, this is going to be really great on my, I'm competitive, right? It's going to be awesome. And then I peek over and it's redlined. Because I was thinking I was having a great, and which is really what the technology is for. Because you know what? You could trick yourself into not, but when you start to go into coherence and you peak and it's in the green, and you start to sync up that feeling and what it feels like, and you can drive yourself into that. What we really do is this. There's a couple techniques. Two of them are what we call emotional regulating techniques. So in the moment, you're stressed out. There's a technique you can do, heart focused breathing. Another one's called quick coherence. Both are a little bit different. They calm you down in the moment. People think that would be gold. Like, I would need that. But the truth is, that's cool to have. But the reality is, what's really cool is when you start to build what's called that emotional resilience. By developing that 10 minutes in the morning and at night, your threshold starts to lower and you're no longer flying off of the handle anymore. And really, that's the ultimate goal. Like, not to have a technique to calm yourself down, but to totally regulate your nervous system to another level than it was before. And then be conscious of it when it's going out. And everybody has the ability to do this.
Yeah.
It's so simple. Like, I hope I don't sound confusing when I'm saying this. No. The hardest thing for me was to figure out, how do I take these techniques that anybody can do and then just give enough value to them beyond the fact that you're breathing? Because they're like, oh, it's just breath work. Oh, whatever. Like, they won't even do it. Like, I want them to do it because it works. It's simple. It works for everybody. And my favorite clients and the clients, all of my clients, every single one of the clients I've had are the ones that never could do breath work. Oh, I can't do that. I can never do that. And it's like, yeah, because you're so hyper vigilant, you need to do that. And we get them to do that, and it changes their life.
Yeah.
So I have a question for you, Dr. Dave. So you mentioned you're a Christian. So if I, as a Christian, started doing this breath work and we're thinking good thoughts and stuff, would prayer life be able to be added to that as part of the process?
Absolutely. So they're my favorite. So I actually, in my interim after chiropractic school, after chiropractic, I went to seminary school because I don't know, I really want to learn about the Bible, and it was awesome. So first of all, I think Jesus used to do this. I think when he would, because he was wandering up every morning on his own,
Right.
talk to the Father, and he would get quiet and he would get centered, and I'm sure he was connecting with the Father that way. So I think he modeled this.
Right.
First of all,
Right.
that being said, so love, right? Love brings you to your highest levels of coherence, measurable and perfect variability. So when I do it, right? So what I discovered when I did this work was that feeling unconditional love was what brought me when I felt like from my grandparents, like not from my parents. I noticed I did a whole thing with slideshows to do with my clients. And my parents came up and I didn't have great coherence, but my grandparents came up and I did. I'm like, oh wait, my parents used to punish me. They're a different category. But grandparents, I did nothing wrong, right? Fast forward, when I do this work, I really get to the place where I ask for forgiveness, right, in the work, because it just makes me feel lighter. So there's a process. I'm closing my eyes, I'm getting to a place, and when I start to get to the thought, once my body's centered, I get to the mind, I ask for that forgiveness and I feel lighter. Because after I'm forgiven, I feel more connected to God, right? Then I open up, I feel like I'm in his presence, right? And I ask Jesus, I'm a Christian. I ask for the Holy Spirit to enter my heart. And now I feel that love. So when I'm in that space, right? I'm literally in the presence of God and Jesus. Like in that moment, I literally feel that connection. And I'll say like, I love you, and I'll feel their love for me. Like the unconditional love of the Father. I feel that. And that's what it goes to the root. And the clients that I have who have spiritual, not all my clients have that spiritual back, but the ones that do, it's amazing for them because you literally, like us, I just literally spent 10 minutes in the presence of the Father, not just praying about it, but literally feeling that connection.
Yeah. What a great way to start your day and end your day, right?
Yeah, right. You feel like when you're in that space, there's nowhere else you really feel like you need to be. Like I think this is very valuable time where I'm spending here, feeling that love, and there's an exchange. Because sometimes I'll enter that space and I'll just say it to myself. I'll say, David, I love you. This is my voice telling me that because it helps me relax. It helps me get to that place, and then I'll sense love of God, right? And then I can say it back, and it's this whole like love fest that you're having. And man, the heart rate variability goes through the roof. Wow. And you leave that session and you just are ready for your day. So thanks for asking that.
I just read we were doing a Bible study with Max Lucado's Help Is Here, and it's about the Holy Spirit. And there was a line in it that I loved because as you connect to the Holy Spirit, God says, or the Holy Spirit says, put away the oars. I'm here to help you, quit struggling. And I just love that because it helps me de-stress when I say, put away the oars, quit trying to do it.
Well, you know how I was talking about realigning the spirit? Like, so we reconnect to we connect to the heart. If that's breathing through your heart, relaxing, right? Then we recalibrate the mind. So we go to the place that brings us those higher levels of love. And then the third is the recalibration of the spirit. And I'll always say, God will meet you down there. I mean, thank God he meets us down there, right?
So we are.
He'd rather work with us up here. So once you get to the heart, when you're down here, when you're in guilt, you're in shame, you're in sorrow, you're in fear, we reach out to God and he gives us comfort. We're trying to get through our struggle, but you can't change your problem from the same frequency of thinking, right? So if you're down there, it's hard to get creative. But when you start to get into a place where you feel freer, you get to that, I think of those chakras, right? You get to that green heart. Once you get to heart, man, you connect with people there. Like when you're in fear and anger, you're protecting yourself. That's what fear and anger does. It's protection. You're just you don't feel safe. When you feel safe enough to come from your heart and you're connecting there, that's when you want to serve. That's when you want to connect with others. That's when you want to, if you're in sales, right? I want to be in a place where I'm in love and I'm listening and I'm creative and I'm open, as opposed to being on guard. So when we live our life through our heart, everything changes,
Yeah.
and the people around us change. And I think that's probably the biggest takeaway that I can help people get to, is to
Yeah.
transcend where they're coming from,
Sure.
because it'll completely shift, their experience in life.
Sure. See it
Well,
from a new perspective, God's perspective, not yours. Yeah, absolutely.
there's two things that come to mind is number one, love the Lord your God with all your heart, your soul, your mind, your strength. So that is talking about the two, you're talking about the parts of your body. That's like the whole holistic look of starting from the top and going all the way down. And I think that is amazing. Another thing that I would say is that for those who have a prayer life, oftentimes it's just a quick quip as I'm walking out the door instead of actually stopping and letting it become a more solid experience for me. And so what you are sharing is a chance to be able to be really intentional about how you approach that time that you're talking about, where you're breathing, you're stopping, you're thinking, you're praying, and whatever a person is doing as far as meditation. But in my case, it would be prayer. I can't think of a better way, like I said, to begin and end your day, and it follows along with what Scripture says when you think about it.
And what it reminds me of is you're inviting yourself, and God's inviting you into the Holy of Holies. You're the presence of God, and so that's where the transformation takes place. It's not anything I'm doing. It's
I had a friend of mine who gave me a book. He was really like a friend from church, but he was just full of the Spirit, like only full of the Spirit. Sometimes you couldn't even talk to him. It's like he was just always bouncing around. He moved, but he gave me a book about that, and it was like the process of prayer. Like there was a process of entering in to the Holy of Holies,
yeah.
and I do feel like that. So when I go through this process, it's like I'm calming myself down. I'm just trying to get into love. Then I'm asking for forgiveness, because you have to, Holy Spirit won't come to a clean vessel. So now my heart is settled right now. Then I invite the Holy Spirit in, and then I enter into presence. Yeah. And it's, I really do think that when I go through this process of the breath work, mm-hmm. and it's amazing. Because it's real. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? You said it. You said, how many times we say prayers where we go through a bunch of words just to check them off, and there's like a little hope, like it's almost like a fox, whole prayer. But when you feel a prayer, when you sense the prayer and you stop to connect, I had a patient of mine, very good friend of mine from church too, and she would just love to spend this. This is before I did the breath work. She goes, I just like to spend time with God in the morning, like just be in His presence. I don't say anything, and I always had a hard time doing that until now. But like, because I always like, what am I doing? What am I supposed to say? But like, when you feel the presence, there's nowhere to go, and there's nothing to say. It's just you don't have to tell them anything.
Well, and you're saying that love is God is the basis of love. So when you're calling out for love in your life, what a great way to do that, right? And I think it would be like a flower blossoming when you are, like you said, opening your heart and your mind and your soul and everything about you, like the holistic approach. You're not missing any part of what makes you the human that you are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We're present, and we're present in the moment, and that it's also an exercise of us being in the moment.
And
it's nice to have the technology behind it, and then the techniques to get there with people. But it's.
So I want to run something by you, because I've sort of been thinking about this when I'm thinking about recalibrating my brain from the old default to, kind of creating new tunnels in there that don't stress me out, and where the cortisol doesn't jump in. And I'm thinking that aligns with the data that you're collecting too. It's to focus on, think on these things, whatsoever things are perfect, and so talk to me about the brain and the restructuring of my brain when I'm thinking differently and breathing differently.
Sure. Well, typically what happens with most people, most high achievers, all of us, there's an accumulation of life that happens that I really have come to appreciate lately. There's accumulation of our insulin resistance over time, even if we eat healthy. There's accumulation of this things sneak up on us when we're doing right things, right? So, for example, and I use the food for example, like you can go to Whole Foods and you can be eating the healthiest organic meals, but if it's spiking your insulin 6 times a day, for the first 30 years, you'll never know the difference and you'll feel amazing. And then all of a sudden you have all these problems going on and you don't know why. And it's a slow accumulation of how that hormone works in your body. Same thing with our nervous system. And I think it's important for people to know that and get that blood work checked and realize that what got them healthy for the first half of their life, we may have to restructure that or relook at that or maybe do it a little bit differently. And that's something that people start to, it's a hard pill to swallow, but at the same time, it's not that hard. And it's even our exercise needs to change. If we pushed it hard for the first 50, it turns out we're supposed to dial it back for better results. Zone 2, yes, you're supposed to be in zone 2. You shouldn't be pushing it. You'll come out of mitochondria. There's a whole lot that goes on there. They're finding out with science that so you should not be pushing it so hard, but you should be consistent. So there's a lot of paradoxes I've discovered these days that I used to do a certain way. And now I'm realizing, and I'm happy to realize, those new ways are actually easier and better results. So that being said, there's accumulation. We can fight that accumulation by acknowledging it and doing something a little bit different to reverse it. Well, in our brain, we have our limbic system. And part of the limbic system has these two almond-shaped things called the amygdalas. And if you think of the amygdala as like smoke alarm. So that's going to fire off when we're under stress. It's going to trip things off. So our amygdala makes us vigilant. But what happens over time, because we're high achievers, we all went to college and grad school, and we were competitive to get there. And we were competitive with our grades, and we were competitive in business and our careers, right? And being competitive and pushing and being first always won us what we wanted, right? We got hard work was the reward. It turns out that we identify to that hard work. And when we need anything done, we go back to that muscle and we use it, right? Like whether we want to or not, we have the hammer and we take the hammer out because the hammer works, right? And but the problem is, as we get older, we use the hammer for everything, right? Because when push comes to shove, let's just get it done. I know it's going to work. And if I ask you to stop using the hammer, on some level, you'll agree logically. But at the end of the day, if you need it, that's coming out. It's coming out, right? So we want to not be angry at the hammer. We want to love our hammer. It got us here, but realizing we have other tools in our toolbox. And what happens is when the smoke alarm, which is supposed to let us know when there's smoke or fire, is going off even when there's just air blowing through it. So we become so hyper vigilant. Think of this as we accumulate, right? Tension and stress, and because fight or flight was meant for survival, right? But I don't know about you, I haven't been in a life or death situation lately. You know what I mean? So we end up upgrading all of our issues into that category. Right? The job, Little League coaching has been put in that category for some people. Whatever. It's like that's what their relationships, their sales, their relationship with themselves, how they pray even has become like this. It's just a thing that they do and check off, right? So hypervigilance is a thing. The problem is the symptoms of hypervigilance is everything you can, aches and pains, inability to sleep, brain fog, all the problems that we think are going on are because our nervous system is so fired up. So being hypervigilant is a thing.
It sounds like perfectionism, another word for perfectionism. Which we can.
The thing is, our brain becomes so used to it that our brain loves familiarity. Yeah. So we'll go to that by default because it's comfortable for us, even though it's giving us bad results. It's getting us some results. It's only muscle we know. So if we can identify that and realize we're doing it when we're doing it, and then start to learn a technique where we start to regulate that or even catch ourselves. That's the key, is like catching yourself when you're flying off the handle is great. Like when I work with a client, I go, I can't wait for the next thing that sets you off, because it's good. Then I want you to pay attention to how that hits your body.
Sure.
Has it hit your heart? Has it hit your breath? Has it hit your like? How does it hit? And then if you can feel that, you go then do the technique I just showed you. We can reverse that, and now all of a sudden, what normally would go down one road for the first time got stopped.
Sure.
And you become this ninja with the little things first, right? The little things, the traffic, all that stuff. And you start to become a ninja and identify how your body reacts and how you could reset it. And that's kind of a huge thing for a lot of people when they realize that they can take it out of manual.
Yeah, awareness is always everything in learning. I mean, so we're relearning, but awareness, it starts with awareness. So what, when I teach adults how to get along with each other in the sandbox, meaning they need to stop bullying each other, I always say we have to start first because the kids are modeling what we're doing. So how do we, how do we reach the kids? Because a lot of them right now that are, in their late teens, early 20s are full of anxiety, and there's so many of their parents and adults that are doing it.
Right.
How do you reach the kids?
And they're stressed and they're autonomically dysregulated. My kids, I've got a son in college, I got a senior in high school, and I've got a freshman. And we go to a school district where, luckily I haven't had to do much myself, but they are so wound up and they are getting into good schools, but there's so much pressure.
Right.
So I teach them that their feelings and their thoughts are driving their physiology. And if they can learn a simple technique of breath and to center it with their heart. So first of all, it's first to example, and then say, let's breathe. Let's do a breath work. They love it. It feels so good, right? It's hard to start.
Yeah.
Because we don't want to. We don't feel safe enough to do it. It's so crazy because you're just sitting in a chair and breathing. But it's like, this can't be it. What am I doing? This is a waste of time. All this stuff goes through your head. That's your brain fighting like crazy to stay alert and keep you safe. This is all it's doing. So kids are great at this. They're not as hyper vigilant as we are, and they love it. It's the best time to teach the kids. Right.
The better.
Yeah. And so this is what we're going to do. This is feelings. Thoughts are for your head, but when you feel them, they affect your body. That's why sometimes you might have a little tummy hurts or you may get a little headache or uncomfortable. But if you can breathe and relax through your heart, right? And I just show a technique. I call it the elliptical snowman, which would be a cool 1970s band, right? But I teach them how the belly and the snowman's like the one you get at the Home Depot with air, not the snow. So it's belly, chest, head, right? We don't close down. There's a cycle to it. The deeper you breathe out, it resets the brain. The body will realize that you're safe. If you breathe out deeper than you breathe in, there's little techniques to breathe them through a cycle. And then 4 or 5 breaths, any human being is going to feel more relaxed and more, and so settling a group down. I don't know about the troublemakers. They probably will. I don't know. I've taught myself, but to get a group of kids to really get focused and get them to realize that they have the ability, like every other human being, to control their autonomic nervous system. They can relax their body at any given time is a superpower. That's a superpower. That's the superheroes can do that because most people can't, right? That's that's a new superpower that they can learn that they can use at any time before a test, before they go into a meeting with their teacher. There's little techniques. They do teach us in the school systems.
Well, that's good. Where are you teaching it? Do you have a podcast? Do you have group sessions? How do you get it out there?
So I started, like you guys, I started a year ago, putting this out there and trying to create, a buzz around it. I do one-on-one coaching and I do classes. So my one-on-one coaching, I have a 90-day program, which is really like soup to nuts. There's 5 techniques in there. I actually don't recommend that for most people because with my program, they get into my community for 6 months. So what I'd rather them do is do the first half. I call it the boot camp. They do like a 6 or 7 week boot camp where I teach them the primary 3 techniques. I set them up in practice and we have a community. So after their first 6 weeks there's 2 calls a month also where they're asking me anything and everyone else is working on that stuff. So I do that online. I do it in group. I do up to 10 people in a group, which is a little more of a discount. I like the group actually. I'd rather be in the group personally. But some people want to do one-on-one, so that's a little bit more. I work with them individually, one-on-one, and that's what we do. We have a metabolic reset program. So besides our breath work, we'll set you up for comprehensive blood work. Some people we want to understand what the root cause of their symptoms are. So while I'm working with their breath work, we tell them exactly what they need to do as far as their blood work, and you do blood work at the beginning and 3 months after, and we balance out your markers with that.
Interesting. Did you say that you also deal with hormone therapy? Are you using that also?
I am not. When I say hormones, I specifically, I have a team of people that work with hormones and peptides,
Right.
But I don't do that myself.
Okay.
What I do is I balance out your blood work. So the hormone that I'm mostly interested in with your metabolic issues is your insulin, and the hormone I'm most interested in with your autonomic nervous system is your cortisol. Now, it turns out cortisol and insulin work together. So that's why they work together. Cortisol is what spikes when your body needs energy and needs sugar. Okay, not glucagon, but for quick energy, it spikes cortisol. So cortisol and insulin are kind of working off each other. When you wake up in the morning, you have a spike of cortisol naturally because your body's freeing up glucose from your liver. And because you got a free breakfast in the morning, by the way, about 400 calories in your liver, you should utilize that first. Cortisol spikes that out, right? Don't eat your meal for your first breath. Don't break your fast until around later on in the morning, okay? So you capitalize on that. If you don't get a good night's sleep, you'll have a 40% spike of cortisol for the whole rest of the next day. Wow. And it throws off your insulin sugar balance. So the sleep and the cortisol and the stress have a big impact on your metabolic function. That's why I brought on the metabolic element of it, because breath work is still dealing with balancing your physiology, but with the blood work, we really can identify some of the root causes as well. And the blood work we're talking about is a comprehensive panel, not like you go to your regular doctor. We're going another level and doing a whole bunch of other tests as well, okay? Because we're not interested in seeing if you're sick or not. I'm more interested in seeing what's going on that spike that to make you sick. Because most of that stuff is actually manageable through lifestyle and some pretty low, cheap supplements, ways to boost your, certain things like vitamin B. If your iron is low or you're anemic, it's not just your iron is low. We got to look at folate. We've got to look at, iron binding capacity. So there's a lot that goes on that the doctors aren't looking at. Mm-hmm. Most medical doctors are looking to see if you are symptomatic to medicate you and give you a drug, right? Mm-hmm. I'm looking to go one level deeper so we can avoid that, so we can avoid the drugs. So we don't want to have you on medication for the rest of your life.
Right. You're not trying to put a Band-Aid on it. You're trying to come to the source and go from there, which is proactive, right?
Yeah. You'd be surprised what you can get these days from a functional blood work panel. And you'll be able to identify really exactly what's going on with you, and that most doctors aren't educated in that level of blood work.
So does your panel, the people that you're working with, your group that you work with, is this like people from all over the United States contact you and you could work with them, or does it have to be somebody that is living geographically where you're at?
I work with people all over the world. I'm in New Jersey, so it turns out as far as blood work, there's a lab that I can send to 47 of the states, which is awesome, and it's very low cost. They do our panels, just not in New Jersey, New York, or Rhode Island. So I work with people in New Jersey too, but it's harder to work with my own people locally. It's actually so easy to work with them, and it's all done online anyway. But we work with people all over.
Wow, that's impressive.
It is. I want to go back to your group work for a minute. Do you sort them according to age so that the teenagers and young adults are together, or do you mix them up?
I don't, because most of my clients are middle-aged and above.
Okay.
My ideal clients are people in their beyond 40 and they're getting to that point where life is accumulating, right?
Mhm.
That
Yeah,
A1C is accumulating, that anxiety and stress is
right,
accumulating. They're starting to see those symptoms. They're not as active as they used to be, and they're looking for answers. So
right.
40 to 65 tends to be like the sweet
Yeah,
spot.
sure, sure. I've got a granddaughter who is highly anxious, and she's just turning 22 this year, and she was in the middle of COVID, and I
Yes.
just, she, I don't know. I'd like to get her some help, but I can't do it for her. So doing
You
lots
know,
of
if you want to hop on a call, I do it like a 1 hour call, and I would do that complimentary just to have a conversation. I tell people like most of the calls I get on, I don't anticipate them working with me, but I also say that they get a lot of value out of that call.
Mhm.
I'll point them in the right direction. If what I do might help them, I'll suggest it after the call. But I'd rather hear what people are going through, what they're dealing with, and even if they don't like a lot of people, I have a free school community that has a course in it
Mhm.
that kind of breaks down, this whole thing. One is talks about how the body and your thoughts and feelings are physiology. The second is that there is something that you can do, and I explain how breath work works. And the third one is the breath technique with the snowman. So if you want to connect with me, I can send you that link. It's a free community, and I love working with. And I honestly will drive a lot of people to the free community before
Sure.
if I don't think there's somebody that
Make it's a
qualifies.
good match. You make sure it's a good match. And will you, can I get your website on LinkedIn, or how can I find out what your website is?
So my website is not active yet, but I can give you the link.
Oh,
It's the coherencecoach.com. We're doing a whole lot of rebranding since we. What happened was I was rebranding. I was the breakthrough blueprint. That's my program.
Mhm.
So instead of having that as my brand, I'm going to be the coherence coach to support the metabolic stuff. So through January and by February, we'll have the new website up.
Not to worry. I just want to make sure I can
Yeah.
promote it as best I can.
Right, right. Send us the information. I'd be interested to look at it too.
Yeah, I might have to go in and have one of your calls.
The link to my school community. That's a great
Yeah.
place to go. And then my social media is on Facebook and LinkedIn.
Yeah.
But we finally got to the place where it's time to launch the website. So
Yeah, absolutely. I understand. Being an entrepreneur is a lot different work than the other stuff that you're doing.
So true. It's like, when chiropractic was like, it came out, it was around 100 years. I just put my own stamp on it, but this was like something that was amazing. It was an amazing experience to create something based on need. That's kind of how I did it. I didn't start off with this as the process. I wanted to help middle-aged men through a transition in life like I had gone through. Physical, chronic pain, that sort of stuff.
Mhm.
And and then the pillar of breath work, which I always did, was going to be part of that. And that kind of what people vibe with the most.
Uh-huh.
It's ironic that we've come full circle. A podcast with my partner who does the functional medicine, and we are helping people with blood work, chiropractic, automatic. We're actually doing all the things I set out to a year ago, but within collaboration, and with the team. So it's been nice.
kind of more fun that way. But you've got some entrepreneurial qualities that maybe you didn't know you had, because it takes a lot of courage and a lot of putting yourself out there that isn't always as comfortable as you might think it is.
I don't know if it's a smart persistence or not, but it's one that I really never stop.
Yeah. Well, that's entrepreneurship. Yeah. Absolutely. It really is. So I want to, Sandy, you have any other questions?
I was just going to say that I love the passion, Dr. Dave, that you bring forward, because it shows, and that's what's going to make the difference in people's lives. For you to come full bore with the information that you've got and have it be passionate, because that's going to catch the attention and help you carry it over the finish line. I think it's really cool that you've made this into something that's going to be very helpful to a lot of people.
Yeah. We'd like to really invite you back. And I've got a new series opening up. I think I'm going to call it Open Mic, which means just to come on and kind of showcase a little bit of what you do.
Oh, that would be cool.
Yeah, it would be cool for us too. Because our community is, we're about ready to I keep getting new people, but I'm going to circle back around because we've got some real powerful people around communication, around mental health, and you're doing great work. You just belong here. You're in the right place.
Oh, thank you so much. I have some fun. This is great. I feel like that's the one thing you do a podcast, and when you're done, you're like, that was nice to meet everybody. I guess that was my show. I guess,
Yeah.
unless they like it. But we could do a breathwork technique.
Yeah.
I would love that. Absolutely.
Fabulous. So look for that. Probably February, March-ish. We'll get hold of you again. And so what we always end with is what's one takeaway from today's conversation? I'll let you start, Dr. Dave, and then we'll let Sandy, and then I'll close it off.
Well, I'll tell you what, today's takeaway for me was realizing that working with my kids, when I did the breath work with them, was so valuable that I think that it would be a good idea to just create something for students, something where it's like 1 or 2 sessions where they just kind of get the understanding of the fact that they have control over their nervous system. My biggest mission right now is to have people realize that their thoughts, that their emotions and their feelings are driving their health outcomes.
Right.
And they should be concerned if their emotions and feelings are super negative all the time, because it's going to impact their health, but not to be afraid.
Right.
Because there is hope, and we all have the ability to do that. And I'm not selling you because I have a free course. I'll put you all in, just because that will answer all of those points.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And that was always my thing. If I could at least create something that was free and available, that people have people should have the option to consider how they're living their life and realize that by changing their thoughts and their feelings, they can change their outcomes. And obviously not just health outcomes as a chiropractor, but it's nice to be able to, if coherence was driven through watching horror movies and scaring people, I guess I'd be doing that. But it's so much more fun to have people connect with their heart and to put themselves in a state of love and bliss, because you know what? Maybe their life isn't bringing that into their experience regularly. And we actually train that into your lifestyle, where love and bliss and connection, and if you're spiritual, your connection to your higher power is there, and you get to go there twice a day, and that will change anybody's life, especially those who have no reason to be in love and bliss, or at least they don't think so.
That's right.
Remembering what that's like, and having that feeling drive your physiology for a period of time during the day is a game changer.
Yeah, not fear and hope. Yeah, those are 2 great words. Sandy, what's your takeaway?
Just a reminder about how our whole body works together. Every area is for a purpose, and how one affects the other. I finished out my career during the COVID time, and I can't tell you the stress that it brought. And I wish you would have had your techniques back then.
It's a tough way to close out, right?
Yeah, it was tough.
Yeah. I had to burn my body out before, I started thinking differently, and so I'm still paying the piper, so to speak, for back issues and stuff. But it's a journey, and it can be done. And we're here as ambassadors to exactly what you're doing too. So we thank you so much.
Thanks for having me. I love being part of the team, and you're going to have me back, and I'm now excited.
Okay.
I'm my friend.
We're going to have you on again. Any ideas that you have for us, just let us know. So we're going to stop the recording. And when we do, we want you to hang around just for a little debrief, okay? All right, so give me a second.